an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering One Piece, episodes 144 and 145. In these episodes, there are a lot of filler episodes in between that I did watch, and then these guys get nailed by a ship that falls from the sky, and I was so sure that this ship had come out of another unexpected rainbow mist portal. I was wrong. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha. Actually, I was going to say thank you to Bernadette for this episode, and I realized I didn't check. Thank you to Gabriela for this episode. My apologies, Gabriela. So yeah, real quick, Bernadette says, I'm out of breath and had to pause my workout to not miss the start, but I need you to comment on one scene from the filler episodes. All right, sock it to me, Bernadette. Which scene would you like me to comment on? It's interesting, too. The filler episodes are, like, it's one of those things that I think probably would have been very tedious to actually cover. But just, like, putting it on and chilling and, like, playing Candy Crush while it was on, it was pretty fun. It was just really drawn out. But there is, again, a sort of short little arc with Sanji at the beginning where he's, like, teaching this little kid how to cook. And I cannot tell you guys how much that made me want to A, cook, and B, eat curry very, very badly. I'm always a fan of the Sanji filler episodes because they always have to do with food, and it just speaks directly to my heart. Oh my god, you guys, I'm sorry if you can hear this dog. Bernadette says, Zoro waking up to Sanji in his face. It's my favorite scene ever. What I enjoyed about that moment is the fact that Sanji actually says out loud how beautiful Nami's eyes are. So, like, he saw something and was like, yeah, that works for me. It wasn't Nami. But all I have to say about this is Sanji, same. I know that wasn't your intention, but I think you've got pretty good taste, just for the record, I'm just saying. Bernadette says, because yes, I ship them so hard. Oh my god, you guys. Okay. I am not going to get too graphic on this, but I was searching for something, and it was not something pornographic, but I stumbled across a fan art of Zoro bent over by some dude. And it was like in the exact same animation style and very, very graphic. The dude who was doing it, I don't think is somebody that we have met before. But it was a lot, and it came out of nowhere, and it really like, I don't understand with some of this. Like, this show, I could see it more because the characters are drawn to be like cute or sexy in specific ways. But another thing that I will stumble on a lot is Simpsons porn. And I don't get it. I truly just don't. Like, not to yuck anybody's yum. You can be into whatever you want. But there are times where I'm trying to, like, wrap my head around what's like appealing about it. And I just cannot do it. Gabriela says, are we introducing Natasha to Zosan love? Because I have all the fan art. Zosan. I love that that's there. That's actually pretty good. I feel like Sanzo is easier to say, but if you're going to have the first syllable be whoever is the top in the relationship, then Zosan makes a lot more sense. Because, yeah. Trish says, damn, I'm just sitting here by myself with Usopp / Sanji. We're all in agreement that Sanji is at least bi, says Bernadette. Honestly, yeah, it's like one could even be like, oh, the reason that he falls all over himself with women is because he's overcompensating a little bit. but, either way. Okay. So the filler episodes, like I said, were all about the rainbow mist. And it was sort of this like weird Bermuda Triangle sort of thing where people like went into it and couldn't find their way back out again. And time worked really weird. So this one dude, it was actually a pretty good like reveal at the end that one of the people that you think is just with the Marines is actually like, it's all timey-wimey. I thought that was cool. I liked that. But it does take a really long time to get there. And it didn't need to. It was just very clearly like we're buying time here. All right. So our ship too, at the end of that, got really badly damaged because it gets dropped out of a sort of portal and like thrown into the ocean really hard. So the figurehead breaks off and the mast breaks. So they've just gotten everything repaired. And then this ship comes out of the sky, and thankfully it doesn't actually land totally on top of them, because I thought that we were about to get all of that damage redone and I was going to be mad. But no, that is not how it happens. And I really enjoy everybody's different reactions to this, because Sanji just kind of has this like manic smile on his face and is like, I think the party's not over yet, while Usopp and Chopper are like, maybe it's just a really bad dream. Yeah, that's it. I love dreams. It's just a dream. It's just, I always enjoy that where we get a little bit of it's different than the camera goes to everybody's face and we just see their expression as they stare into whatever with varying degrees of when they're actually talking and showing the different ways that they want to cope with things with dialogue. That's what I like. And Usopp begins to meditate, and you guys I gotta screen share this. Oh my god, I got to. Guys, he is meditating and he opens his eyes and there's a skull, a whole skeleton, really, like an inch from his face. And I could not stop laughing. Guys, this is just so good. Anytime, like Usopp is really becoming one of my favorites. And oh my god, Trish says, fun fact, the 4 kids dubs lasted last episode. Sorry, I'm misreading this. Sorry, Trish. The 4 kids dubs last episode ended with the ship falling from the sky as a cliffhanger and then never continued. So it's entirely plausible to say that version just ended with the entire crew dying. That is a way to handle it, I suppose, for kids. Why are you like this? But yeah, so this thing is heading toward him, and I am just in love with Usopp always being the one on the receiving end of like the most unfortunate parts of whatever fucking adventure they happen to be on at the moment. And they wind up deciding that they are going to scavenge this thing, but it takes a little while to actually get to that point, because the thing that they're of course stuck wondering about is how the fuck a ship fell out of the fucking sky. And Usopp is just basically out here yelling about how he knew they shouldn't have come to the Grand Line. This bullshit didn't used to happen in East Blue. We could have gone somewhere nice. We could have had dinner. We could have chilled out on the beach. But instead, we had to come to this fucking weird, crazy place. And honestly, like, I see his point. I'm not mad at him for it. And I really do appreciate what's going on with Robin. Owen was sitting next to me while I was watching the last arc, the filler episodes. And he made a comment about how the woman who's doing the voice for Robin sounds like the one person in the D&D campaign who isn't really into role playing, because she just kind of doesn't have a lot of inflection. Personally, I think that's a choice that's being made on purpose, but he just interprets it as like a voice actress who's phoning it in. And that's fine. Like, maybe it is, for all I know. I think it's a choice, and maybe she was phoning it in and she pretended that it was a choice to make it easier to phone it in. I don't know. But Robin, when they start talking about like potentially there being an island in the sky, everybody's like, well, that's ridiculous. That couldn't happen. And Robin is like the one person eventually who is like, y'all have seen the weird shit going on all over, right? Why is an island in the sky where you draw the line? Because that's not really logical. We have seen some bonkers, essentially magic happening. So don't assume that you know how anything in the Grand Line actually works, because there aren't rules here like there are other places. And I was just so grateful that somebody said it. This is actually a thing in an episode of What We Do in the Shadows that I covered recently, where all of the vampires are saying that ghosts aren't real. And the human familiar is like, I saw werewolves and a Babadook. Why aren't ghosts a thing? Why do you think that? And this is something that happens so much in media, is that people will have this fantastical shit going on, and then there'll be one particular thing that everybody just agrees isn't real. And I don't, it's sometimes in universe, it will make sense because they think they know the rules of certain fantastical things. But in general, it just feels like, oh, well, we need everybody to let this ridiculous thing happen because they aren't actually worried about consequences, because they don't think there will be any. So anyway, Sanji and Chopper are hugging one another and freaking out about how they just went to a ship graveyard, and then they just had skeletons fall out of the sky, and what the fuck. And Nami is looking at the log pose and is like, this shit is broken. Why is it pointing at the sky? And Robin is like, oh, there must actually be a sky island. Usopp says, if there is, it must be full of skeletons and rickety old ships. And to be frank, why wouldn't you think that? I mean, that's essentially what was in the Rainbow Mist. Rickety ships and skeletons. That was kind of all there was. So, if that's what like drops out of the air at you, I could see just assuming, oh, it's just more of that. Whatever. And it becomes a thing that they want to figure out how to get to Sky Island. Again, guys, I'm really sorry about this dog. But they don't have any, what Luffy does is essentially be like, all hands on deck, and here we go. And then remembers, oh, right, the ship can't fly, my bad. So it's a pretty good bit of him just like being like, well, let's go there. And then realizing we have no idea how to do that. I am so curious to find out exactly how to get to Sky Island, because I don't doubt for a second that Sky Island is a real thing. I 100% assume that this is real. It's somewhere. For all I know, there may be a whole other layer, and there are more than one Sky Island, But from where I am at the moment, I'm trying to think about how this could possibly work, because getting to the Grand Line, you had to go over this weird sort of mountain range waterfall thing. But it was still, you were in the water, you crossed a border, and it was still felt as absurd as it was. It made physical sense how that you would get from one to the other. And in terms of like Sky Island, I have no idea. I would have said that the only way to get there is to like create some sort of machine, except for the fact that the ship that fell out of the sky looks like a regular ship. That said, maybe Sky Island, people are building ships from there, and that wasn't a ship that was used to get to Sky Island. It was a ship that was used once somebody arrived at Sky Island. But if they were able to use it, then that presupposes that they were using the air around the island as water, like the way you would use a regular ocean. And that's like what Robin says is essentially like, it's not how it works. It's not an island above us, but an entire ocean. And this is the part that I genuinely was like, wait, how does this go? And Sanji says, I'm still confused. And I was just like, same, bruh. So I guess the like assertion here is that there is an entire ocean above them. But if there is only one island, if there's only Sky Island, then that entire ocean is mostly empty or really small. So yeah, I don't know how long it will be to get there because of the fact that we don't actually have a like particular plan yet. The plan is to go to this next city that they like wind up seeing some information about later and ask around, essentially. Does anybody know how to get to Sky Island? I am assuming that what we are going to be facing for like a lot of this coming arc is just going to be the search for how to get to Sky Island, but not actually getting there until the end of it or maybe the middle, you know, because Alabasta, that arc, we didn't actually get to Alabasta itself until like probably a third of the way in, probably. So maybe that's how it works. We spend the first third trying to figure out how to get to Sky Island and then the last 2/3 being there. Or I could be completely wrong and there is no Sky Island and Robin is a con artist and that's not what's happening and I fell for it. If that's what's going on, I won't even be that mad about it because to like get me to fall for it, I would be pretty impressed. So I wouldn't like just saying now, if Sky Island turns out to not actually be real, that's fine. That'd be funny. So yeah, Luffy is like, let's set sail for Sky Island, put the rudder down and point the bow straight into the sky. And I love, as they're all saying this, Robin just looks down and is like, there's like a drop of sweat on her forehead in this way that's sort of like, oh my God. And then Luffy is on the ground and her hands are over his face. And I'm assuming just like covering up his mouth to shut him up. Do you know what, guys? What an amazing power. If I could make my hand appear out of a man's chest and slap it across his mouth so that he stopped talking, do you have any idea how the fuck often I would use that power? Oh my God. It would be impossible to have a conversation with me. Like I would never stop. It wouldn't even necessarily have to be because I was mad either. It would just be funny. I would just, oh, sorry, what were you saying? It's so weird. I can't hear you. Like the only thing is, I guess, because of like the one sort of vulnerability that we know she has, all they'd have to do is like open their mouth and bite my hand. And then I would be like, ow, and pull it off. But honestly, that is so funny. And the fact that she like shut him up that way, it did a lot to warm me to her, honestly. And then Sanji is like, oh, so did you guys figure it out? That we can't fucking fly? And this is when Robin is like, I've only heard rumors about it. I haven't actually seen it. And Nami does the whole like, well, of course it's made up. Like you've only heard rumors about it because it's not real. And Robin says, you need to learn to trust your instruments. No matter how crazy things get or however strange the situation, you have to follow the log pose. That's the one rule to always follow. I personally like that as being a hard and fast rule. And I sort of like that she specifically says this because Robin has experience, obviously. She's older than all of them. She has been doing shady shit for longer. And if she says that it may seem crazy, but listen to the log pose, then that is something for me to like grasp onto as a hard and fast rule in a land that I have not really trusted to have hard and fast rules, to be perfectly honest. I've been sort of assuming a lot of the time that like, this is how it works as we know so far. You know what I mean? I am a rule follower. I like rules. I find them comforting. I find them grounding. I appreciated being told that this is like a particular thing that will always be true. Again, she may be wrong, and we may find out that that is not always the case. But as of right now, I like this. I appreciate there being any sort of limit put on anything, because it does sometimes get to feeling like absolutely anything is possible in this world and nothing is being held to any particular like standard. Do you know what I mean? And I don't mean standard like good or bad. I mean standard as like this is what is allowed to happen and this isn't. And sometimes if there's no limit, it feels too open and like you could just do or have your characters do anything or have any sort of Deus Ex Machina show up. And there are times where fine, but mostly that feels lazy. But yeah, so she says that she would bet her life on the fact that Sky Island is a real thing. And they are looking at like the bits of debris that have landed on the ship. There's also like the what do you call it? Skeleton that landed. And Robin is busy putting this guy's skull back together because it's like broken into fragments. And Zoro looks over and sees that Luffy and Usopp have jumped onto the wreckage of the ship that fell. And when Robin finishes putting this skull together, what they figure out is that this skull is several hundred years old, I think she says, because the holes in the skull are a type of like treatment that's very antiquated to get tumors out. And so 200 years old, this ship that fell out of the sky. Very interesting to me whether or not there's a time rift again with like, you know, the Sky Island thing, the same way there was with the Rainbow Mist, or if it just happens to be a really old ship, you know? Why would his skeleton still be there, though? I don't know. But yeah, and she's looking at this guy and says that he would have been in his early 30s when he died, and he had some kind of illness, and he succumbed to it. And that his teeth remained in good condition because he rubbed tar on them. It was a common practice in the South Blue to keep out bacterial infections, which I feel like I've read about this. There's a particular place that they had something that was really, really good for teeth, but it was like blue or black, and it would leave you looking ghastly, but it actually was super helpful to the overall health of your teeth. So it was a weird thing where it would look like your teeth were rotting away in your skull, but actually you were like keeping them preserved by doing it, and they had really good dental health. But I can't remember. Oh, Bernadette says in Japan they did that. There we go. So that is like, I always am fascinated at finding out the ways in which ancient peoples figured out how to deal with certain problems, and that like, it may seem really, what's the word I want? It's like not, I don't want to say like aesthetic because it's not that simple, but it's not something that sounds pleasant, you know? And yet that was what everybody did, and nobody really thought about it in those terms. And now it's just the kind of thing that you're like, what, really? But yeah, anyway, so she says, I suspect that he was part of an exploratory party. And there's even this journal, the Briss Kingdom of the South Blue. They launched St. Briss as a scout ship 208 years ago. And there's a picture of it. And it's the exact same ship that just fell out of the sky. And she says it probably has sailed in the skies unmanned ever since the crew and captain died. Which, like, that is one assumption. And maybe that's true. But I don't know. Like, I don't know. I get the feeling when Robin says things in this show that we're supposed to sort of believe her. That she's meant to be the person who's got the... I almost wonder if Odo wasn't like, all right, everybody in this ship is a kid. I need somebody to tell them things because I don't have anybody who's like level-headed and mature enough to cope with anything in a way that I'm going to need in upcoming stories. But yeah, I get the vibe that if we're hearing it from her, mostly, we're supposed to take it for granted that she knows what she's talking about. Bernadette says, sorry, Southeast Asia and oceanic cultures, not only Japan. Okay, yeah, because I didn't think what I read was about Japan, but, I could have been wrong. Bye, Trish. So, Luffy and Usopp are still on this ship, like, the pieces of it that are floating around. And when they look up, they realize that all of those parts are continuing to sink. And Luffy is sinking with it because he can't swim. You guys, I constantly forget that Luffy can't swim. I swear to God, I just don't know why I can't keep that in my head. I think because it just feels like such a huge disadvantage that I don't want to think about it. But anyway, he manages to get back and he found a map to Skypiea. Is that the way they say it, I think? And he is saying this means that it's true. And he's cheering and dancing around with Usopp and Chopper about how it's so cool that the island's definitely real. And Nami, of course, has to be like, guys, look, there's like fake treasure maps all over the place. This does not necessarily mean that it's real. And we also, even if it were, we don't know how to get there. And she looks up and sees how incredibly like saddened they are. And she tries to take it back. Oh my God, you guys, there is something about all of their faces falling at the same way and this at the same time that I thought was so like precious, This is something that I think Owen can run into with me sometimes because I have a very expressive face and I'm very dramatic. So sometimes I'll get like really excited about something and then I find out that like it can't happen. I can't have it. We can't do that. And he will see that I'm really upset, but he can't help but start laughing because despite me being upset, the expression I get is so like over the top that he's just like, come on, are you really like, really? But anyway, as she points out, having the map does not show them how to get there. And Luffy is like, well, you're the navigator, so you have to figure it out. And she's like, that isn't how it's worth. We don't know anything about this. We just know we have to defy gravity. And that is not possible. So the odds are there is a way up there because a giant fucking ship just fell on us. So it's doable somehow, but we just don't know how. And there may be a clue on the ship that tells us how to get up there, something further beyond this map. Maybe a piece of equipment that they used to ascend. We should salvage it. And then we get all of our guys in these barrel suits, these like very Jacques Cousteau 1940s. When was Jacques Cousteau like at his prime? They are these barrels that they have like the little glass porthole sort of in the front for them to see out of. Holes in the sides for them to stick their arms through, and their arms are like in sleeves. And that way the water can't get in over there. And they are attached to the ship by these giant ropes and tubes that they talk through, and it comes up through a megaphone that's like on the side of the ship. And I really enjoyed this whole thing for the fact that it worked. Because, like, you know, Usopp says something like, oh yeah, these things are great. They've never broken once. But we know that Usopp is a giant fucking liar who exaggerates everything, and especially exaggerates his own prowess at making whatever. So I was not confident about it. But as it turns out, it's not the suits that are the problem. So they get lowered into the ocean, and there are a ton of giant sea snakes. And I love them all being very calm as they report back that there are giant sea snakes. Like Sanji at one point is just like, they're looking at me. Meanwhile, Usopp is just mopping his brow and saying, I am so glad they didn't make me go. Same, Usopp. Same. Like, I mean that in terms of I don't want to be the one to go down there. And also, I don't feel like you would be equipped to go down there either, bud. So then we get, all of a sudden, all of these voices in tandem with fucking cymbals singing Salvage the Sea, Salvage the Sea. And a whole new ship and crew arrives. Y'all, I could not stop laughing at the fact that they are going to go salvage this ship, and the enemy that they come across is very specifically an enemy that salvages. There was something so absurdly exactly specific about this dude showing up right now that felt like he had to have been doing this as a joke, right? Like this very particular thing. It was just so funny to me. Like, oh yeah, that's what we'll do. We'll salvage it. Oh, okay. Well, then we need to get the anti-salvage pirates in here, you know? And the name of the captain is Masira. Am I saying that right? Masira? He is a giant monkey. And the theme of his ship is monkeys and bananas, which there's a similar thing with monkeys as with rabbits, where we have this thing about how monkeys love bananas, and like they'll eat bananas, but it's by no means like their particular favorite necessarily. And also we thought that rabbits liked carrots because of Bugs Bunny. That's how that got like into our consciousness. But apparently Bugs Bunny was specifically animated to be a bit of a spoof on, was it James Cagney? There was some older actor who had a carrot in like some movie, and that was the thing that they did with Bugs Bunny. And it just became this accepted wisdom that actually rabbits love carrots. They don't even like them that much, never mind love them. If you give them other stuff, they will choose that over carrots. And it's also like kind of not great for them. So anyway, I'm very curious about like the nutrition of a banana for monkeys, because there are so many things that we associate. See, like cats and milk, another one. We see cats being fed a saucer of milk as like a thing for, it's not good for them. It's really not. And it's just, you know, I feel so bad sometimes when I realize that I have been fooled by cartoons. Like, so much of my assumed knowledge is based on Looney Tunes. And then I'm just like, wow, I'm a real fucking chump. But anyway, they have a whole thing going on here with the front of their ship. And I wasn't sure what this was going to wind up being, because it looks like it could be a weapon. And it's like this giant monkey with the two symbols and the like banana sort of masts that are attached to it via ropes. We wind up finding out later that what this is a salvage sort of machine. Like it's dropped down into the ocean, and then it will clamp down on what they find and draw it to the surface, which is actually a pretty good idea. And what we have here is Masira is talking to Nami, and he gets caught up, as every male character in this entire series seems want to do, in how hot Nami is. And she leans on this to her advantage completely, and winds up convincing him that they are not only not trying to salvage the ship themselves, but that she is so impressed by his rugged good looks and the good looks of his entire crew and how competent they are, that they're just going to sit here and observe, if you don't mind. We just want to watch people who are really good at their jobs be good at their jobs and see how you do it, because obviously you're really good at it. And it's the kind of thing that like would definitely actually work. And even later on, when some of the guys aboard his ship are like, there are people down there already, they all assume the jig is up and he's going to realize that those are our people and that we've been full of shit. But no, instead Masira is just like, just so you guys know, there are some intruders down there, so be careful. And honestly, here comes another antagonist. I was going to say villain, but he's not really. Another antagonist who I just want to be friends with our crew. And I was really sad later on when they have split up and they suddenly realize that Masira is on their deck and kick him off, because I just kind of wanted them. I want everybody to just be friends and hang out. You know what I mean? That's like, Owen was talking when we covered Avatar, I think, or maybe it was Korra. I think it might have been Korra. There's an episode where everybody is like at the beach together. And no, it was Avatar. I was lying. And Owen was telling me how it's such a sort of like trope in anime for there to be a beach party episode where everybody gets to like talk to each other a little bit more than they normally would, because they're grouped together in a way that they aren't often. And we also like get to see how hot they are in their particular bathing suit, whatever. And honestly, I sort of want that for this crew. I want a beach day for all of them. I want them to just get to hang out and chill in the sand and enjoy themselves. And I don't know if we're ever going to get that, but it feels like we should, because they're on the water literally all the time. There's a talk in the chat about whether Bernadette says milk is good for no one except calves. Gabriela says, wait, milk is not good for bones? Have I been lied to? You kind of have been lied to, Gabriela. Like, look, I love milk and I am a monster when it comes to like milk and cookies. Just, there's nothing better. Hot chocolate, sign me up. However, it's not awesome for you. And the Dairy Council managed to create this campaign about how high in calcium it is. And it's not even that high in calcium. And when it is, it's often because they add calcium to it. And you're better off just taking a supplement. But all that said, I love me some milk. I really do. I am a dairy fiend. But anyway, so our friends, while this is all happening up on the surface, are in amongst the ruins of this ship trying to find anything of use. I have to say, this scene where they're all down there looking around ends with a panel, and then this happened. I just wanted to say this because there's a panel and it says One Piece and a little like interlude music, and this was not in any of the Netflix like episodes. So I'm assuming that this is because Hulu is airing things like completely instead of cutting out those little interludes so that it feels more like a cohesive episode. And I'm assuming that if you were to watch, for example, if Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood were put on Netflix, then those Full Metal Alchemist breaks in the middle of the episode wouldn't happen. But I'm not sure of that. It's just an interesting thing to see the difference between what Hulu does with this and what Netflix does. And I have to say, guys, I'm really bummed that this isn't on Netflix anymore, because the interludes are not, they actually don't bother me with this. The interludes with Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, those can be really jarring because that show is so heavy at times. But with this show, they're fine. The thing that bugs me is that Hulu doesn't have a skip intro option or a play next episode option. So I wind up having to, fumble with the remote in order to skip the recap of the next episode that starts, or just the opening credits, which you guys have warned me not to watch because they're full of spoilers. I can't just skip them. I could fast forward, but it's very inaccurate. So I have to just sort of sit there and wait for it to finish. And thus, I absolutely could not stop with the theme song in my head playing over and over and over again for the past few days. Oh my God, y'all. It was a lot. Netflix has the streaming platform UI figured out, and I just wish every other streaming platform would just steal the UI from Netflix and get on with it. Because honestly, why are you like this? Why are any of you like this? So Gabriela says, oh yes, the interludes, they're so great. I love them. And they highlight the theme melody for each character. Yeah. And that was what was sort of fun too. Sometimes it's like a saxophone, for Robin. Jessica says, I didn't know the interludes were missing in Netflix. Most anime have those. Okay. Yeah, they weren't there in Netflix. So I'm assuming that they're just trying to keep it as much of a flow of feeling like a regular, sort of a bingeable episode, I guess, instead of it feeling like there would be commercial breaks, But it's just frustrating with Hulu because of how it's set up. And also with Netflix, it's a lot easier to rewatch. Hulu makes it such a pain to go back. So I'm just bummed. I wish Netflix would just get the whole show. Let's just do that, please. So anyway, our friends are down there and they are grabbing all of this random stuff that when they bring it up to the surface later, Nami is absolutely disgusted with the garbage that they thought was going to be valuable somehow. And she yells at them quite a bit. And I was just like, Nami, no offense, but I was with them and there was not a lot down there. So I don't really know what to tell you. But yeah, this whole thing is, there's a moment where Sanji finds a photo of a woman with these big gold curls. And I'm kind of thinking that maybe this woman is going to wind up being significant later somehow, but I don't know how that would even work if this ship is supposed to be 200 years old. They find a chest and they manage to break the lock open, and then they open it and there's a feather inside. And I don't know if the feather is actually valuable or useful in some way, and I just don't know what that is, but it didn't look like it. So I have no idea. And as they are on this, in the midst of the wreckage, all of a sudden, the other scavenger crew manages to get a lock on it and lift it up towards the surface. And our guys have to manage to get out of there before they get yanked up or discovered. And Nami is trying to communicate with them through these the tubes, to warn them, but also she can't talk too loudly or else this monkey guy is going to hear her. And his men are making it sound like the guys who are already down here are fucking our shit up. And he yells something about how dare you lay a hand on my hardworking men? And his mouth is open and he's screaming. And then he just freezes. And there's this long pause. And Nami says, we're not going to take your picture or anything. And the camera pulls back, and he has men holding up a background behind him of flames. Because we saw the flames in the background in that moment, and I assumed, of course, that it was just a moment of the anime effect, where we're just going to have people dancing through flower petals and hearts if they're happy, or we'll have flames or shadows or whatever if they're angry. That might be one of my single favorite moments of this entire show. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I like the combination of him pausing, then seeing that his guys are holding up a background, then Nami being like, we're not taking your picture, and him saying, you're not? I thought for sure he would be like, no, I know. And he would just try and play it off. But he is just very open about how he expected that they would definitely take his picture right now. This whole, and then Usopp, he was giving us a photo op. Everything about the way this was played, it was perfect. And I didn't expect any of it. I didn't expect a single bit of it. It was so good. So he jumps into the water and heads down there to our guys. And they managed to get into this sort of area where the ship is. There's enough air trapped in it that they don't have to use their suits anymore. So they pull them off and they're sitting there just chilling when this monkey guy comes busting in and starts yelling about how you're muscling in on my turf. And Luffy just says, nice makeup. Thanks. I feel it adds a refined quality to my face. Oh yeah, it certainly adds something. Why can't everybody just be friends? I just really want it. This was so good, you guys. I love when Luffy manages to disarm an antagonist. I love it. It's just always so pure. It's just the best. And then they're like, well, who are you? And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't introduce myself. And as he's introducing himself, we pull back. We're looking at the ship. And this shadow begins to rise up behind it. And then we are up on the surface. And we see the shadow up there and begin to be like, wait, what the fuck? And this thing is opening its mouth and clamps down on the entire ship. Which, of course, because these guys are not in their barrel suits, but nobody knows that they got out of them, leads them all to believe that they are dead and have been eaten by this giant turtle. Guys, this giant turtle, I don't know what to make of it. I'll be honest, there's a point in the filler episodes where they come across this island that's real weird looking, and I really thought it was going to turn out to be a creature, that it wasn't actually an island. And this turtle is roughly the same size as that weird little island that they come across. So I was kind of like, okay, I don't feel like that was unreasonable for me to think actually anymore. So that is where that episode ends. And then, and I should mention too, that is the last episode of what Hulu says is season 2. And so season 3 starts with 145. So we get, this. All All right, look. Couple things. One, I have to mention, now that I have remembered, what is up with the piece of paper that Luffy had sewn into his hat? I keep thinking about this piece of paper when I am not recording. It'll pop into my head at weird times, and I'll suddenly remember that we haven't actually gotten an answer on that. And then when I go to record, I always am like, I have to remember to bring that up when I record, and I never remember. So, one, I wanted to mention it. Two, in this second episode of the two, who should happen to be back but Buggy the Clown in different makeup? And it's really funny because Owen, when he was sitting with me yesterday watching the filler episodes, was like, does Buggy the Clown ever come back, do you think? And I was like, I don't know. I would guess if I bet he does, but it won't be for like quite a while. And I was just so wrong. I was so surprised to see him here. And he is joined by Luffy's brother, Ace, at one point. And I just don't know what to make of it. There's like a whole thing where these guys are wanting to maybe kill Ace, and Buggy knows who Ace works for, the Whitebeard Pirates, I think are their name. And he's like, y'all, no. Like, it might seem impressive to people if we kill this guy for our rep, but what happens then is that his captain will absolutely come after us for retribution, and he is nobody to fuck with, and we do not want that smoke. So absolutely not. Do not touch him. And Ace is offering to tell him where Buggy is. Or no, Ace is offering to tell Buggy where Luffy is. Why? Like, I know that Ace isn't some kind of traitor to his brother, so there has to be a particular reason, but I can't think how that would go, you know, unless it's just literally, well, I want to see Luffy, so I'll tell you where he is because I'm so confident you won't be able to hurt him that I'll bring you right to his front step just because I need to see him and it'll be a convenient ride. Like, for all I know, that's literally all there is to it. But yeah, this whole thing with Buggy returning was just completely unexpected. I had no inkling that he was going to turn up. And not only is he here, all of his henchmen are here. We've got Moji and his lion. And what's the name of the guy with the green hair? Yeah, they are all here and they're all fine. And if it had just been Buggy, I think I might have been like, maybe in a weird way they can work together. But because he's got all of his people with him, that feels less possible to me. Because, like, it's not just these guys. He's got a whole crew. And I would be willing to be like, okay, those are new people. But these are his, like, tried and true side, what are they called? Like, right-hand men, I guess. And they want to go after Luffy, and he says that he won't right away because the bigger the bounty gets on the Straw Hats, that way when you take them down, the bounty on your head will get even higher. That was a weird thing for me. I assumed it was going to be the bigger the bounty gets on them, the bigger the payout will be when we take them in. But he says the bigger the bounty will get on your head. And I didn't really understand the logic of that. Is it just a pride thing? Is it just that they want to be able to say, oh, he's got the highest bounty of any pirate in the Grand Line? Like, I didn't really understand the advantage there. Oh, thank you. Florian reminds me that Alvida is also there. That's right. I totally forgot. Because she's sort of in the background, just like contributing here and there to the conversation. Like, well, does that seem like a good idea? Why would we do it that way? But yeah, this is just really, I was not expecting Buggy to be here. And I thought that if Buggy followed them into the Grand Line, that we might actually see that happen. And I don't know why I thought that. I guess to sort of like stir up a feeling of dread or anticipation, knowing that they're being followed finally by somebody that we saw way back. But they're here. They have appeared. Demian says, I don't think the Navy pays out bounties to other pirates, and your own bounty boosts your rep. I mean, they don't pay out bounties to other pirates, but like you could just have somebody who doesn't look like a pirate, turn him in and take that money, I would think. But I get your point. So it is just a pride thing then. Okay. So meanwhile, we have this whole thing with them thinking that our friends got eaten. I love how calm Robin is as she's watching this turtle eat these giant barrels and just thinking to herself, yep, wow, they got eaten. And Usopp is so disgusted that she's just really chill about it. So then we have this whole, like darkness that falls. And the guys, by the way, they have gotten out of the water. They're being chased by a monkey man who like leaps up out of there and is trying to stop them. Hand over the treasure you stole or I'll rip your ship apart. And Nami gets all excited. Is it true? Did you find treasure? But later on, she realizes that her idea of what treasure is and what their idea of treasure is are not the same thing. So, they're in the midst of facing off about this. And Masira's men are like, hey, Captain, behind you? And we have an extremely effective slow pan. Guys, a lot of times when they do stuff this slowly, it just feels like, all right, get on with it. No, this gripped me. I was watching like, what the fuck is happening? And the way they do it is really smart because they have the ships, but then they also have the turtle. And we saw how massive the turtle was in comparison to their ships. But now whatever is looming is dwarfing utterly that turtle. So it really gives you like several senses of scale in the one image. And like I said, we have the slow pan up this like weird silhouette. And it took me longer than I care to admit to realize that the silhouette was like of a person or at least like a humanoid sort of figure. And they are so huge that they essentially like reach the sky and they have wings. It's like they're giant archangels or something staring, and they have thrown a shadow over everything that is so profound because they block out the sun so completely that it feels like night. That's how much of the like sky they take up. And there's 5 of them. There are 2 on the outside, and they do not appear to have weapons. And then the 3 in the center each seem to have some sort of spear. And there is not a soul amongst our people or the monkeys' people that seems to know what the fuck this is. Everybody seems completely baffled and panicked. And that weirdly was like sort of reassuring to me, the fact that it seemed as if nobody actually knew what was going on. Do you know what I mean? I just was like, all right, so there's no like secret knowledge that one of them can take advantage of. Everybody is as clueless as everybody else. And they begin paddling frantically. And we get a really weird effect of a sort of like rainbow mist-esque portal that is like white that they go through and suddenly are out under the open sky, and it's like crystal clear, and there's no giant turtle, and there's no other ship either. It's like the whole crew of Monkey Man's ship has wound up somewhere else. Like the portal somehow separated them all. I was wondering if they were going to wind up in sort of weird different dimensions. But later on, after they kick him off of their ship, his crew, as they're like searching for him, they get pretty close to him. So obviously they're in the same area. It's just they got let out in totally different places. But yeah, I don't know what to make of these giant figures. I don't know what to make of the turtle. I can't tell if the turtle is related to the giant figures or just like another random sea monster. I genuinely, like, I don't have even any theories on this because it's just so weird and so different from anything else that we have seen so far, you know? So yeah, then we have this whole thing with like Nami looking at all of the, loot that they brought on board and her being really pissed because it's all garbage. She even breaks the armor that Luffy is parading around in. I love when Sanji is like, but you didn't even look at the beautiful seashells I got you. And she says, shove the seashells down your shorts. It's a really hard thing to say, by the way. And there's a moment between her and Robin, and she's like, basically, I'm going to fucking kill these guys. I'm so sick of them. And Robin's like, maybe this will help. And she hands Nami an eternal pose that she stole off of the other ship, the salvage ship. I don't know how she did that. Oh, I guess if she's got her hand power, she can grab stuff and bring it back to herself. That's really crazy. That's like, that has to be why they were looking for her when she was a kid, huh? Now that I know that's a power that she has, if she was little and maybe like didn't have parents or something, you would absolutely just use that to steal shit to get by. Like, why wouldn't you? That would be the first thing you'd do. So, okay, I think that's going to be the theory that I'm going with Robin, is that like she was wanted for theft because she was just using this power. So yeah, and I love Nami starts crying and looks up at Robin and says, you're the only one that I can depend on. And I was just like, honestly, so grateful that Nami had somebody backing her up and being a fucking adult. So this is when she sees the word Jaya that is inscribed on the eternal pose and realizes that maybe this is where we need to go in order to find out how to get to Sky Island. And that is where they decide that they're going to head. Nami knows that it's starboard, even though Luffy tells everybody to get ready and he does not know, in fact, which way they are going to go. But the thing that is difficult for Usopp is like, well, if we go there, then the log pose's needle will change again once we reach the shore, and we won't be able to find our way back to Sky Island. And I didn't even think about the way this works. I just like, you know, and the way that they're going to play with it is that they're going to try and like go to Jaya, but not like pull fully into port, I guess, and hope that it doesn't readjust itself in time before they leave again. And that's kind of like the best plan that they've got to go with, because otherwise it's just like sailing randomly around wondering how to get up into the sky, and that's just really not going to be helpful or effective. So yeah, that is pretty much everything in this episode, right? Yeah. That is how it ends. It's just all of them fighting over food, and Sanji taking food away from Usopp, Chopper, and Luffy because they're complaining about it, and they chase him, and that's about it. So, all right, I'm over time. I have to go. But yeah, I'm real excited to see what the hell's going on with these giant figures and what that was. So, all right, guys, thank you again very much for hanging out with me. Thank you, Gabriela, for commissioning this episode. And I'll be seeing you again soon with a new one. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
was an Unspoiled Network podcast.